so much for everybody that is watching. Oh, Mr. Todd.
Yes, am I early?
No, you're right on time. Always on time.
I learned it was the first lesson in show business. So is it over? Is the watch over?
Yeah, we're all done, and I was letting people take a break for a minute before they come back, and people are processing the film and talking about it, and there's some really great conversation that's going on about it as well. Thank you so much.
Were they chatting throughout the film as well?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I'm sure you had a variety of opinions.
I mean, it was all love, but you know, Trevor is a very unpopular character. People.
He's designed it, and actually, Xander is a very good friend of mine. We did another film together called Driven about LA cab drivers before Candyman. Actually, and it won a bunch of awards. So he works all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very unpopular, unfortunately. But that's good though. When an actor plays an unpopular character and is not liked, that's the goal.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
I have to ask for the audience as well. How are you doing in the time of Corona?
I've been good because I was an only kid. I was raised an only kid, so I know how to spend time with myself and be completely comfortable. So I've been just digging inside, working on my upcoming autobiography, and as I told you before, I was scheduled to do Fences. Would have opened 2 days from now, and at the Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival, but they postponed it to next season, so we'll see.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. And voiceovers from home still. So, I've been able to still make a living, not the living I would have made if been able to film, but, I can't complain because I try to stay positive.
Right. I mean, that's really good that your voice is just so incredible and so iconic. And so, the ability to transfer that over to at-home work is really great. So that's super fortunate.
Yeah, just keeping my place clean, it's hard. I got 2 cats and one of them sheds a lot. So every morning I wake up and the sun hits the hardwood floors and I go, oh.
I just got a kitten 2 weeks ago, and so I'm discovering every place in my house that is dangerous. So that's been fun.
What's the kitten's name?
I'm calling her Basset after the Egyptian goddess.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's gonna make your life, enhance your life.
She already has. She's a sweet little thing, and so I'm really happy. Quarantine was hard alone, and so I needed something to kind of. I didn't realize how lonely it would be, and so it's been very interesting.
Yeah. Well, sometimes God has a plan where He wants just people to wake up and pay attention. And loneliness is a fine quality. I mean, it's normal and it's natural. And I think a lot of people are lonely right now.
Yeah.
Lonely, they're being exposed to truths. They're being, shown the side of the people who pretended didn't exist in this country. And here we are.
I mean, it's been such a revelatory time period right now.
Zero up there in Seattle, so.
Yeah.
I applaud you for for the health workers, for the frontline people, for the beautiful young people that have been protesting peacefully. That's important. I'm inspired.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been weeks now of protesting, nearly every day now, which has been really incredible, the way that the community has come together. And I can't believe this. It just feels like we're in just completely unprecedented times. So
we must learn from this time. I mean, Seattle is a great city. The 3 times I've been up there, it's always been for 2 or 3 months at a time. I've always had a blast. Found out that Jimi Hendrix was actually raised there. I said, all right. And it's got a great theater community.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we can, we would love to have you back as soon as possible, as soon as it's safe.
I'd love to come visit. Yeah, and I applaud your foundation and the project, what you guys are doing. So when Donovan approached me, not everything is about money. I just want you to know that. And I gladly wanted to volunteer this this time. Although you made me miss out on my mimosa tonight, okay? So
Oh
I have one until after this is over because I can't be slurring and have orange driplets coming down my mouth, all right?
I'm
So
so sorry. With
okay.
next time you
No,
come here, I owe you a drink.
okay, sounds good. Not to mention I had stopped by my dispensary today too, so I have to. But it's okay. When we get done, I got a bag of goodies. I'm gonna give my cat some catnip, and I'm gonna probably watch the Five Bloods.
Yes, yes, that sounds like a fantastic night. That sounds so good.
I'm totally off tomorrow, so
Well, I appreciate your time and thank you so much. The LANGSTON Seattle is we're really dedicated to Langston Hughes's mission in life and trying to give young Black creators
you
and
know what? I would have worn my native son shirt. I didn't even think
no,
about that. No,
it's all right. Next time you come down, definitely.
don't count on it.
So I wanted to ask if we could start from the beginning.
Sure.
What was?
Is this all being recorded now?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we are live right now.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Come out of the woodwork.
I wanted to ask about what kind of, when you were younger, a young Tony, what kind of a kid were you? Were you always interested in the arts?
Well, my natural mother, who is currently a born again minister down in North Carolina, but apparently when I was little, she didn't take kindly to me. I went through a couple years of therapy trying to figure that out. But fortunately, I had an aunt. Her name was Clara Elliston, who couldn't have children. And word got back to her, and she says, I want that boy. I need that boy. And so from a turbulent 2 years of not being sure where I was and why I was there, all of a sudden I had these great big arms reach out and bring me into a loving household. From that moment on, um, she worked as a domestic. People that don't know what that is a maid, usually primarily in white households. But and sometimes she would bring me along and prop me down in the library, and I was always fascinated with reading. So I was just, I was content, and I didn't even know we were poor. Okay, I had no idea. I didn't have consciousness until MLK was assassinated. But she was smart, even though she only had an eighth grade education, because every summer she would ask my counselors, how can I keep him busy? How can I keep him occupied? And she made sure that every summer I was in a different program, from science programs, outreach programs, building houses, habitat stuff. And then finally, I discovered the Boy Scouts. Why that was important, because our scoutmaster, Sandy Johnson, who was also a minister, he one day he asked me, "You ever think about public speaking?" I think I was 10, and I said
Oh,
he knew I read all the time, and he arranged for me to do a speaking engagement at the Aetna Insurance Company, and that was the spark. And then I entered high school, and I had a growth spurt, 6 inches, literally in 1 year, and I couldn't. Even though I love basketball, I just couldn't walk down the hallway without tripping into a locker. And but this English teacher, Mrs. Reynolds, she kept squinting at me. And one day she says, "Have you ever read Shakespeare?" And I said, "No, ma'am." Isn't he from England? She says she gave me a copy of the Tempest and said, "You should read this." And I had developed a habit of reading comic books and pop culture. I was a nerd, and I read this, and it was like, wow, major light bulbs, like flash bulbs, like red carpet stuff went off in my head. The next year, I auditioned for the high school drama club, didn't get a part, but she made me the curtain puller. And I was just so proud to be a part of a community of people that didn't care about what classification you were in high school, whether you were a jock or a geek or whatever. We were just artists. The next year, I finally got a part. It was a production of Dracula. I wanted to play Dracula so bad, but she gave me Van Helsing. And I said, why? Why? She says, all he does is talk. She says, well, that's good. You have to drive the action. Yeah, but all the girls can't wait to see Dracula come on. That is not fair. So yeah, so Young Anthony always, I played, my aunt made sure I was happy, content. I had things to play with. I had great friends, grew up in the same block all the way up until college.
Wow.
Yeah, also I had a lot of hobbies. I'm an amateur magician, which
No
is
way.
a lot of sleight of hand stuff. When I was 12 or so, I studied hypnosis. I was a weird kid. I studied astral projection, tried to convince my friends. Let's all astral project and meet. This night we'll take a walk to the graveyard. Okay, come back.
That's
But I stopped one time when I actually tried to turn around and see myself.
Mm.
They say when you do that, it's like an African tradition where you're sent into the jungle to look in the lion in the eye, and you're not a man until you do that.
Yeah.
You see yourself and you see who you really are, nakedness and all.
Mm.
It's a moment of understanding. I'm
Wow.
sorry, I pontificated too long, but I wanted to get that out in a different way.
Yeah. That's really incredible. I didn't know that about you. Well, now I'm really curious. Are you still into comic books at all?
Well, not like I was as a kid. I mean,
Mm.
my grandmother would give me $1 and I'd buy 4 25-cent 80-page comics, and just read that and say them out loud. But now, because the voiceover stuff,
Mhm.
whenever I get cast as a DC or Marvel person, I go to Golden Apple and get all backlog stuff. So no, I don't have a pile of comic books here. All I have right now is a cold split of champagne and a bag of other goodies.
Well, I was going to ask because
I want you to know that I've suspended my evening of luxury relaxation just so that I can have a coherent conversation with you people. Okay? All right.
I'm sure everybody's super appreciative. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, pause.
I mean, because like your turn as Zoom on The Flash was so cool. Like, I remember I was like hanging out on my couch, and I'm like, doing what people do, which is so obnoxious. Where I'm sort of like, I'm over on my computer and I'm talking to my friend, and then I stop and I'm like, that voice. I couldn't believe that you were I didn't hear anything about it. And so
You didn't take your credit on that.
oh yeah. I mean, it was your voice is just so iconic. So I think that's really cool because I'm sorry.
That was a fun gig. That actually, I mean, I had done a couple other voiceover gigs before, notably Transformers. But when Zoom hit, that really got me firmly ensconced into the voiceover work.
Oh,
Like
nice.
right now, we got 2 new series on Netflix. I can't tell you the title, but one of them might play a dragon named Skyrek, who's going to be as an anime character. I'm really, really happy about that.
That's
And he's
awesome.
a benevolent dragon, even though he's 60 stories tall.
I think I've heard of one of the voice actors roles that you've got was actually announced. I don't know if I should say it. I don't know if I shouldn't say it, but I saw it in the trades, so maybe
If you saw it in the trades, what was it?
it was Masters of the Universe.
Oh yeah, we did that.
Okay.
So
I didn't want to get you in trouble. I would be so scared.
I don't get in trouble if you say it, okay?
Okay. That's true. That's true. I would get fired. That's true. I'll take that.
Jeff Goldberg saying, "Tony, what did you just say?" No, it's official. The new Candyman comes out 9/25/20. Okay.
Well, see, this kind of makes sense though. This background that you had because you've had so much success in genre movies. I mean, Star Trek, The X-Files, Night of the Living Dead, Candyman. I mean, like you've been in most every kind of iconic genre corner, major kind of a thing. I mean, is that intentional for you? Is that something that
No,
you
of
like?
course not. No. And I don't want to say I was pigeonholed, but if you play something really well, they want you to do it. And I keep fooling them because I have choices. So I try to pick. If you look at my filmography, every role is completely different from the next one.
Mm.
And I wanted to be a character actor, not a leading actor. When I went to after high school, I dropped out of UConn because they were focused on musical theater, and even though I love music, I'm pretty much tone deaf. Right? I discovered that when I was in the choir, gospel choir. They made me sit in the back and just sit down. But yeah, so I had great training. I went to Gene O'Neill Theater Center in Waterford. Um, I remember an actress I knew at the time gave me a pamphlet and said, "You should check this out." And I said, "I can't afford this place." She said, "You should check it out." So I wrote them a letter. They said, "Come meet us." And I told them I can't afford this. They said, "We want you here. And all you have to do is pay it forward." So that was the beginning. And the Gin O'Neill is that's where they have the National Playwrights Conference, where August Wilson was discovered. Just a magical place, art all day long, 12 hours. And from there, I got another scholarship at Trinity Rep in Providence. Both places have won Tony Awards for excellence. And as the only Black student in both programs of 20 people apiece, I was forced to, I had to do a lot of the classics, and by classics, I mean European classics. Um, didn't get to do much Black theater, so I got to do that. I did monologues and stuff like that. Um, but that's another story. And then finally, when I got out of school, I started a teenage theater group in Hartford, Connecticut, my hometown, called Free Me Troop Troop with my wife at the time, Fatima. Um, uh, so yeah, that was great. 2 years of that, they gave me the incorrigibles, and I said I want them. And for 2 years straight, all of them showed up every day from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night in a warehouse center that the city gave us, and we got an accommodation from the mayor for that. After that, I said, "That's it. I got to practice what I'm preaching," and I moved to New York. Car broke down somewhere in the Bronx, right outside of Manhattan. We had to crash at Fatima's cousin's house for a couple of days, and then within two days, I got my equity card. It was amazing.
Wow.
Because I was well trained and I was tall, and when I could put a sentence together. It was great.
So I'm sensing a real love of theater.
That's my first love. That will always be my first love.
So
Anybody who has done theater knows it seeps into your soul. First of all, you get to work with your actors for at least 4 weeks of rehearsal, digging into the script, getting to know each other, putting the scene on its feet. And then you have tech, which is when the lights come on and the costumes come on, and then opening night. And if you do your work, and if it's a good playwright, they greet you at the end of it with such uninhibited joy that you just don't get in film or TV. Now,
yeah.
Obviously film lasts forever and TV is in everybody's living room, but theater is special.
So what is the difference between your sort of approach between acting on film and then acting in theater? How do you prepare yourself? How does that process differ?
Well, it's different levels of volume. Television tends to be whispery, private conversation. Film, you try to choose films that are going to leave an impact. And I've been lucky. I mean, I think my legacy, there'll be at least 10 films that people will say, "Oh, this is good, this is good, this is good." Not all of them can be good. But there's an old adage, I've said this before, but, uh, film buys a house, TV buys the furniture, but theater, that's your lover for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I have to ask, you've been, speaking of legacy, you've been the Candyman for over 20 years now. 28 years now.
Carrying him from convention to convention. I must have signed over, I don't know, 10,000 pictures, over 2,000. Yeah, it's insane. I have so many action figures out there. That's when I knew I was really making it.
Yeah.
Must be about 25 of them now. And I think I can say this. NEC is about to drop another 3.
Ooh, okay. Let me dig into my savings account.
Well,
all right.
One of the stipulations is we're going to get a certain batch, that I'm going to donate to certain groups of people. So we'll make sure that you get you get what you deserve.
Oh, thank you. I mean, so what does that feel like? I mean, going to these conventions, I actually met you a couple of years ago. You were here for Crypticon.
Okay.
Um,
The one that was in the basement.
where, yeah, it was, I think, yeah. Um, I you were, I think you were trying to get something to eat, and I I bothered you for a second, and you were so gracious and you were so kind.
I love
And
people. I mean, that's without people, we can't. Nobody. Yes, I grew up, a solo person, but you have to have people in your life.
yeah,
You got,
yeah,
a smile can disarm a whole lot of things, and people need to, particularly in these times, need to understand that.
yeah,
Now, I'm so emboldened about all the peaceful protests that are happening, and people just need to learn how to reconnect and look at each other's eyes and say, "I like you," not because of any situation, your job, your race, your position in life, but I like you because we are sharing the same time and space on this earth, this Mother Earth.
yeah. Yeah, it really made an incredible mark on me, which is why, I thought if anybody that I could reach out to might be open to this, it would be you, because you made an impression. And we talked about doing I said I had read this book called Horror Noir, and I said, it would really make a great documentary. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and then the next year, I heard that they were making a horror noir documentary, and so it was really fortuitous. So
Cool. You got good instincts. We got to keep it going.
I'd like to think
Truth
so,
be
yeah.
told, speak the truth. I love it. And that
Um,
documentary is a well-deserved one, exploring the history of the limited history, I must say, of Blacks, not just included in horror, but in film, period. Uh,
mhm.
but that's another chapter for another day.
Well, no, but I wanted to ask you about, how do you feel about being part of that legacy? I mean, you are firmly in that documentary, which I think I've seen maybe 8 times,
Wow.
and I actually did a screening here in Seattle of it.
Oh,
Um, uh,
lovely.
yeah, and I had Tananarive Rividu come and speak for that as well. So so
Yeah.
so good, yeah. But I wanted to ask about, how do you feel about being part of that legacy of having Candyman in that for so long?
You know, I love Candyman. I love Night of the Living Dead, but I did not train to become a horror actor. But I have no shame about it. It's just the luck of the draw. But that's why I constantly fight to tell people I don't want to be pigeonholed like that. And I don't want to be that black guy that does horror films. I do a lot of films. Okay. And I'm not bragging. I do. I do a lot of films, I do a lot of different things. But people like what they like. So that's all I can say. And whenever they get too close or it gets too unnerving, I return running to theater.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is something that sort of hit the zeitgeist with everybody, and upon its first initial release, it did kind of have some criticism to it.
No, do
Uh,
it.
and now, though, with the 2020 release of this movie coming out, the way in which people are so excited for this film. We talked earlier about the new trailer that just
Yeah.
dropped.
Wasn't that amazing?
So good. Oh,
So very, very good. Esoteric, feminine, elegant, artistic, beautiful.
you're so right about that. So it's so feminine and so elegant and graceful in this sort of quiet, small sort of a way, that's so effective. You're right about that.
I did hear some comments, so some, you know, Twitter noise
Mm,
about whether or not Candyman was appropriate for the woke generation or people that did never got that Candyman was about race in the first place. I don't know how that was missed, but it's very much about race and
so
about condition.
I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, how do you feel about um, this sort of new embracing of, well, I guess not new because it's been happening this whole entire time, but that Candyman has become such a cultural figure, and that we're having so many different kinds of conversations. I don't know how you could miss the messaging and the way in which Candyman sort of goes through the horrors of slavery and how that reverberates into the present day. I don't know how you could miss that, but that's another thing.
There were some scenes that were cut out of the original that
Mm.
further explain Helen and I's relationship and the depth of it, but the studio was a little nervous and they didn't want us too intimate.
That's interesting because the intimacy, the sort of romance of your character.
It was there anyway, but it was really, really there before
Yeah.
scissors came in.
Because I think of Candyman as sort of a figure like Dracula, like the Phantom of the Opera.
Very much like the Phantom.
Yeah, a gothic.
And we got to give props, you know. Yes, Clive Barker wrote The Forbidden, which this is based, but his version was a hideous, hairy, googly-eyed, you know. Bernard Rose, who's a dear friend of mine, had the genius to transpose this story into Chicago. I'll never forget, we were hanging out in the Kingston Mines, one of my favorite blues bars in Chicago on the north side. Shout out to Frank Pellegrino. And he kept wanting to talk about Candyman, and you know, and Buddy Guy was playing, and I wanted to hear Buddy, and he kept twisting his hair and saying, "No, this is gonna be terrific. It's gonna be wonderful and stuff." And we've been friends since that day. And the chance we get to work together, we do.
So, so yeah, with the new, I mean, there's always going to be talk on Twitter. I mean, that's
Yeah, that goes. But I have a filter, so I don't, you know, unless you listen. I try to encourage people with positivity. You know, that's what I can do. That's my gift.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, lately I've been having to repost a lot of what some people may feel is a racial divide, but I'm just calling it like it is. You know, it is. We have had, you know, there are lynchings occurring right now, people, you know, that are unsolved. I mean, they've called them suicides, but in my lifetime, I've never known any black man to hang himself in a tree. But this too will come to pass.
I mean, but you lived through so much, you know, cultural touchstones. You lived through Martin Luther King's murder. You lived through the Rodney King and the LA riots, and now through this. What is your impression
of the thing when the Rodney King riots happened? Candyman was released weeks after that. Okay, so Bernard and I were talking just the other day about how once again, 28 years later, we find ourselves at a position to look in the mirror, which is what the whole thing is about.
Yeah.
Not about any, you know, aristotleation. It's about really looking in the mirror and facing yourself. And if you can live with yourself, fine. If you can't, change.
That's really remarkable that the original movie was released after the Rodney King riots, and now this, some 28 years later. Do you feel hopeful at all about the ways?
Yeah, I do. I talk to my daughter every day. She's been protesting, I don't know, like the last 2 weeks, I don't know, 6 times. She's a graduate of Wesleyan and a Columbia grad school champion. She's works with preschool children. Her partner is a documentary person, has won awards. He actually has a project called Two Gods. It's trending 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And she sent me a picture. You may see it on my Instagram of her, this beautiful picture of her just holding this sign. And so that makes me hopeful. And my writing, because this book I'm writing, I have a great responsibility. It's not going to be a fluff piece. It's not going to be, oh, I did this, I did that. I want to chronicle my journey through America, through each project that I've taken. And my work has taken me every state in the country except for Wyoming. So I have something to say about driving across the country 5 times and going down the south and coming up to a gas station and needing gas, and there's a big old Confederate flag staring in my face. Okay. So.
Yeah, I mean, it feels different somehow.
It's very different because, yeah, I mean, look, all people have to do is open their eyes and believe with their heart. We have a government that is failing us. Okay, we got 40,000 people out of work. We got people of color who are dying every day from the virus, and nothing is being done. Okay, we got Black men being assassinated on our TV sets right in front of us. So of course we should be feeling something. What we need to do, instead of repelling from each other and separating into different camps, oh, I'm going to wear a mask, well, I'm not going to wear a mask, is try to reach out and understand each other. This is the opportunity. That's why we're getting this wake-up call. This is
Yeah.
the opportunity to try to figure out why. And having justice for people of color doesn't mean taking away justice for people that are white. It means equal opportunity. It means let me have the same mortgage rate that you have. Let me have the same job possibilities that you have. Let me get my education on fully without worrying about how can I pay. You know, the one gift I gave my daughter is I took care of 90% of her college tuition. I had to leave 10% so she had some sense of responsibility. But that, you know, that's my gift. And that's still good.
Wow. I that's the one thing that I've noticed about this as well, is that there's just been so much interaction from people from across different backgrounds. So it's been white people,
Yeah.
Latinx people, Asian people,
Yeah.
all of
Globally,
us.
it's globally. And I love the world. I love to travel. When the pandemic first happened, I said, oh my God, because what I really like to do is get in my first class seat. Once people walk by me scowling, how the hell did he get up there? Anyway, I'm here, right? So, and then go flying to Paris or Japan or Luxembourg or Wales or wherever the places I've been, or Africa most particularly. I've been there 4 times. And
Wow.
people really need to do, everybody, white, black, Spanish, everybody. You need to take a trip to the motherland. And then you'll see how people, African Americans here feel, where you have currency where all the faces are white. Africa is completely reversed.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
there's a joy, there's a freedom, there's a, like even in the ghettos, the shanty towns, which some of us may say, oh, how could they exist? Is there running water there? There's corrugated steel shacks. I've never seen happier people in my life. If one person has a chicken, the whole township eats.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the way we should fracture and restructure our lives.
Yeah.
It's not, we're right now, we're supposed to be the United States, not the divided states. And we know that comes from on high. Not
Wow.
God high. I'm talking about government high.
Yeah. I this is really been great. But I have to ask, have you seen the new version of Candyman?
That I can't say.
Okay, all right. Okay, I don't want to lose my job. All right, that's.
No, you're not gonna lose your job, but I can't answer that, can I? No, no.
We're just gonna have to wait, I guess.
Yeah, it's right around the corner, folks. I mean, the way this number is going, trust me.
I want it now, Tony. I want it today. I want it
No,
tomorrow.
it's
Oh my
supposed to be
goodness.
out on the 12th, which
Yeah.
ironically was my Aunt Clara's birthday. So when that first
Oh,
got announced, you know, she left us 20 years ago. When that first got announced, I knew it was so spiritually connected. I dropped to my knees. I said, oh my God, what a gift. But she's still very much a part of it.
oh wow. Well,
Couldn't be here without her. Okay.
yeah.
And every person that's still alive would not be there unless they had a nurturing person in their life at some point. Okay.
Hmm. And
Because
how many of us wouldn't be here without a Black woman in our lives, helping us, so that's really incredible.
yeah,
I can't wait. I can't wait to read this book. I can't wait. Well, I wanted to ask if you had some time for some questions from the audience.
yeah, sure.
Great. So I'm trying to take out all these questions that are about the new movie.
What are
Uh,
they? When is it coming out?
they want everything. Who's in
Yeah.
it? Are you in it? What happens? What's the end like? Oh my goodness. Um, so one of the questions that I'm seeing a lot is, did you get to keep any items, any props, or any costume pieces?
Um, yeah, I have a coat somewhere in storage, you know, that I'll give to my daughter at some point. Um,
Yeah.
that was pretty much it in Candyman. I had a book at one point, but I got lost in the shuffle.
Oh, would you consider like giving it to like a museum or donating anything like that, or putting it on display?
She can do with it what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go to her. You know, I also have a son, Alex. I haven't mentioned him. And you know, love you, Alex. He's an aspiring musician.
So outside of horror, do you have like a favorite kind of genre or types of roles that you like to play?
Oh yeah, yeah. Me and my aunt, we, you know, when I came up, cable wasn't around, so they had the 8 o'clock movies. Because there was only one movie per night, they didn't, you know, waste our time. They were always high caliber 4-star movies, and they were always in black and white. So I'm a huge film noir fan. I love Sterling Hayden. I love Humphrey Bogart. I love, you know, William Holden. I love Billy Wilder. This is my favorite director. I love the way they tell a story. So I was exposed to great storytelling, you know. Um, Unfortunately, you know, I mean, I love my industry. I'm a card paying SAG member, but you know, let's face it, 60% of the films that come out, you know, they're just time passes, right? When
Mm-hmm.
you have a quality film like a Sunset Boulevard or Learning Tree, you know, or Claudine, then you're doing something. You're saying something.
Yeah. So, I mean, because you've been in video games and voice acting and theater, uh, do you have still any dream roles or anything that you'd like to do next?
So I want to direct. I want to direct.
Yeah.
I want to. I want to. I've worked on a couple scripts, and we'll see. You know, I got some meetings I have to take soon. But before I do that, I have a couple projects that I'm already committed to. One is Ghost in the House, which is about Jack Johnson, and another project. A couple of, I can't mention them, but you know, some good stuff, some great stuff. But I got a whole bunch of films in the can. Also, we got a film called The Change. Uh, we got Marfa, Texas, great movie about the Marfa Lights.
Oh, yeah.
Supposedly of souls.
I'm from Texas, so that's great. Yeah, I
Oh,
love
okay, great. Yeah, it's a great little film.
Yeah.
And we did a film in St. Louis called All Gone Wrong about a true character named Lamont Hughes, who was a notorious drug courier in the Midwest. Never got arrested. I played the character. And then one of my favorites is a film called Immortal, which is a quartet of films that comes out in October. And it's one of my favorite pieces of acting. And then, of course, we got Tales from the Hood 3, which also comes out in October.
I just saw that. I just saw the announcement for that. That's
Oh, yeah?
exciting.
Where'd you see
Yeah.
it?
I think I saw it on, oh, I was looking at IMDb. I was looking
Oh,
for, I think I was looking up your films, and then I saw that listed, and I was
okay.
like, whoa.
You didn't see the official announcement yet, then?
No, not yet.
Okay,
No.
okay. But I know they're all, so it's been a blessing. I worked a lot in the last year before everything stopped.
Mhm.
And then when the thing stopped, I had 4 all set to go, you know, but like everybody else, I had to just be patient. It's like a well-baked cake. Sometimes you gotta let the ingredients settle and don't take it out of
That's,
the oven too soon.
I love that. I love that. Do
Cooking
you
is one of my hobbies. I mean, I'm baking a storm up during this thing. I made,
you everybody else is coming out of quarantine 25 pounds heavier, so
yeah, 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 and you know, you got to have spice in life.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've been also trying every new recipe I get my hands on.
Yeah.
um so can I ask, what do you have, like a favorite playwright or a favorite play that you like to
Well, because I've got to personally work with August Wilson, you know,
Mhm.
who did the 10-play cycle of the African American experience in America. Uh, I originated King Hedley II, which we actually brought to Seattle.
Mhm.
We had Max Roach, who's a famous jazz drummer, was our music guy. Marion McClinton, the great Ella Joyce, played my wife. Mel Winkler, who I told you earlier, passed away recently. It was just, when we opened in Pittsburgh, it was a 3.5 hour production. We did it for 2 years. We did Pittsburgh, Seattle, and Huntington and Boston. And I got one of the best letters I ever got. Somebody wrote me The gentleman wrote me a 3-page letter starting with, the moment you stepped on the stage, I saw myself. And it was like the book was going backwards. And that to me meant something.
So would you say that that's, or which one would you say is your favorite one, or do you not have a favorite August Wilson?
Well, I love Fences. Fences is great. I've done that once at Jiva Theater Center, and I was about to do it again. Seven Guitars is magnificent. Those are my favorites.
Yeah.
You know, Jitney, you guys just had Jitney up there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I know half the guys in that cast.
Nice.
August Wilson's circle is a very tight group. And I like Shakespeare too. You know, I would love to do Coriolanus at some point. 10 years from now, maybe King Lear.
Okay.
Like King Lear's, you know. Yeah.
That's it. Oh my God. That would be you as King Lear. That would be really incredible.
Yeah, but I got to get a little more settlement going on, and I just, you know, it'll happen.
Yeah.
It's meant to happen.
So one of the other questions.
But I started with Sam Shepard and Pugard, by the way, Athol Pugard, who was a South African playwright. I can't leave the discussion without mentioning them because they were part of my training. Sam Shepard wrote some incredible plays, and Pugard, man of the world. He was a teacher of mine at Trinity Rep, and I remember we had a 9 o'clock class with him. He would walk in with a bottle of wine and chain smoke a pack of Chesterfields for 3 hours. Okay. 20 years later, I got hired to not only be in his latest play, but to be on stage with him, with my mentor for 2 years. We started at La Jolla, went to Kennedy Center, and ended up at Manhattan Theater Club. And I never forget one matinee in Washington. I was 15 minutes late for curtain. I came up. You're supposed to be there a half hour. I ran up and saw my understudy wearing my boots. He told him to take them off. He didn't speak to me except for what we said on the stage for 3 days. And then he gave me the scolding of my life.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, I'll never oversleep again.
So earlier you had mentioned that, you know, you were trained in this sort of classics and you didn't have an exposure to a lot of Black playwrights or a lot of Black creators.
Oh, I had exposure, but my student body didn't have exposure. I started writing stuff the way I would get by it, where I would write scenes and stuff for them, incorporating, you know, their races, their ethnicity with mine.
Was that a struggle for you? I mean, being, you know, a minority in a program like that?
No, because everybody wanted to work with me. I mean, I remember, like, we all had to do, you know, it was a 12-hour a day program, so we all had to do like 4 scenes a day and stuff, and people were lining up to work with me. I mean, it was fun. I remember at the end of the first year, when girls said, "We're just curious, Tony, but you never made a pass at any of us." And I looked at it and I said, "Well, I'm on scholarship, and I came here for the work. I mean, you're beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I couldn't get this." And of course, the next year, I fell for somebody in the first year program. So there goes that. Okay.
She sounded a little disappointed, honestly, but I don't know. I mean, because, you know, sometimes when you are sort of a lone person, I mean, I know that I've been the only person of color in programs. There's, you know, kind of
And we need to change that, because we have a lot of talent out there. So a whole lot of talent that never gets an opportunity or a way to find a way to get to make art. And I know that for a fact when I taught these teenagers, everybody's got a story inside. And what people need to do with all this social media going on, they need to write thoughts, put them in a cohesive form. Everybody's got their own play, their own story. So tell it, no matter how you feel about it.
Over the course of your career, do you feel like we are getting any place that's like better as far as diversity? I mean, we've got Nia DaCosta, you know, Jordan Peele. It feels like there's more of this kind of conversation of having diversity.
Well, yeah, there's certainly more actors of color working now than there was in 1960, when you only had Sidney Poitier and James Edwards, who was my personal go-to guy. Yeah, that part. But then you say, okay, there's only 30 people that are working out of what? How many roles are created? So that's not going to change until they allow more writers into the writing rooms,
Mm.
and more writers to given opportunities to produce their, and that's happening slowly. Like that movie about the last black man in San Francisco last year.
Mhm. Yeah.
It was actually directed by a white guy, but the story is written by a black actor. Uh, so it comes in spurts, but we can't be, and I'm telling you, in theater, that's completely different. There's 20 young playwrights, black playwrights out there that are like forging amazing things, doing amazing work. But unfortunately, in theater, as much as you may love it, it's hard to make a living just doing theater, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And another thing about theater that I always complain about when I show up at a theater, there's very little minority outreach in the audiences. Okay. So
Mm.
here we are doing August Wilson, which is about the African American. I used to run into the offices and say, "How come we need to get people in here?" And then I go to communities. Well, a theater ticket is $40 a piece, and there's four of us. I understand. So we always try to create programs, you know, uh, and then, of course, the high school performances are very important. That's how I saw my first play, and that's very important. You reach a kid when he's 14 or 15, and he sees somebody that looks like him on stage, his life would be changed forever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I when I did see Jitney when it was here, it was mostly white audiences. And I also thought there was a play in New York called Slave Play that was very controversial, but it was also mostly white audiences, and it was
It
interesting to
is. It really mostly is.
yeah, who is this being made for to see?
Well,
Who.
I can't speak for every writer, but I know August Wilson wrote his plays for the African American experience about African Americans in the Hill District in Pittsburgh. Okay,
Yeah.
but all people and the white intelligentsia latched onto it and claimed it, to be the best thing since sliced brown bread.
Right. Well, is there anything like that you're watching right now or reading or anything that you're listening to that's really getting you excited, especially during quarantine?
Yeah, well, I just the Run the Jewels.
Yeah, you like Run to the Jewels?
Yeah, I was listening to that today in the car, and I discovered it like Sunday. I think I dropped a couple of tunes from there. I really like that.
Yeah.
All this controversy about J. Cole. I haven't listened to that track yet.
I
Um,
don't. The controversy. I didn't. I think people are kind of trying to look too closely into
yeah,
that.
because I loved his debut, and I know he was raised by a white mother, I think,
I
and
think so. Yeah.
objections about that. And nobody can choose that. That's a lot. That's the deal that you're given, and you're
Right.
supposed to run with it. You know. Um, So yeah, I did a play called Sunset Baby, Dominique Morrissey, 2 years ago in my hometown of Hartford, and it featured all the music of Nina Simone.
Mm.
Uh, uh, Brittany Bizarre played the title character, a great actor named Carlton Bird, both two young people who were fresh out of the MFA program, and it was wonderful. It was
That's
wonderful.
on.
Short too. It was only 80 minutes, so as opposed to 4 hours.
Yeah. That's. I mean, yeah. I also. I'm sorry.
You know Dominique's work.
No, I'm not that familiar with them. I have to catch. Do they mostly work in LA?
It's a she.
Oh, she.
Dominique Morrissey. She's a brilliant. I think she's on a TV show now, but when she writes,
Oh,
it's on fire,
that's
and
awesome.
from the feminine perspective as well.
I'm gonna check that out. Thank you.
More.
Yeah, I like the new Run the Jewels album. It feels it's very angry about the times. It has a
Yeah,
lot of it's a protest music
right.
essentially.
Right. And it has a terrific backbeat.
Uh-huh.
It's fierce, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you're about to get the party started. Um,
No, no, my cats have been fed, but I have to pour a glass of champagne.
I appreciate your time so much. Thank you
I was
immensely.
And you have my Twitter handle, so make sure you not only pop this when you guys transfer it to YouTube, and
Mhm.
and send me a link and give me some info so I can get you one of those figurines. Um, okay. And I just want to, thank you for having me. I'm glad we can make this. And lastly, folks, I just want to say this real quick. Rest in peace, everybody. Aunt Jemima, Mrs. Butterworth, and Uncle Ben, and that dude on the cream of wheat box. Okay. Now, I'm a cook, so I never really used Aunt Jemima's material, okay, because I like my flour like fresh and stuff, and the syrup is not real maple syrup. See?
It's not.
No, it's not. It's fake syrup, so it's probably for good riddance. So rest in peace, y'all. Good fight.
That's the message you want to give to the people. Rest in peace, Aunt Jemima. Can you believe in 2020 we still had?
You still had it. I had blacked it out of my mind. Blacked it out. I mean, I meant to say blanked it out of my mind every time I was in that because I don't go for that syrup. I go for real shit. But I kind of like saw hints of it. I know they changed the logo on the Uncle Ben rice. They made them a little smaller.
They did make him a little. They were hoping nobody would notice.
Nobody would notice. But hey, you know what? So this is the problem with systematic racism. Okay, it's still there. Okay, it's there for all to see. And all you people that, I'm sorry for the kids that are screaming for Mrs. Butterworth from the pancakes, but make them fresh pancakes and go get some Vermont maple syrup.
Yes.
Got nobody's face on it, just a big tree with that maple syrup oozing out.
The idea that we were being sold high fructose corn syrup inside of a mammy figurine.
Hello. Okay, but then we can go to our cereals too. We did have chocolate.
Yes, we did have chocolate. People. We did have the message. Why do you have to go crazy for Cocoa Puffs? Why do you have to be crazy? For the chocolate stuff.
And Tony the Tiger was definitely African American.
Was he?
Yeah, well, yeah, he was.
Because he was good at sports.
I think he was half Puerto Rican and half black. But
oh, okay. I didn't know that, but thank you. I think because he was good at
what
sports.
we really need to address, though, is so much about young people are raised on candy bars, right? Candy bar, bag of pork rinds, and Sunny Delight. We need to get that out of our lives, right? But there's never been, except for Reggie Jackson had a candy bar once, who was a famous baseball player. I don't ever remember him trying to pull that on a candy bar,
You wouldn't do a candy bar, Tony Todd's chocolate bar?
You'd be surprised at things that they've asked me to participate in that I don't do. Okay?
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair.
Draw the line at female massage units. Okay. Okay, no, I'm not having that. It's bad enough having figurines out there. Can't have it. Won't do it.
It would sell. It would sell so high. Well, I mean, that's the good thing about quarantine is that a lot of people, at least here in Seattle, people are starting to grow vegetables. People are starting to grow plants.
Yeah.
Because we were going through periods where you couldn't get groceries for a while.
Couldn't get toilet paper.
Right.
That was the first thing to fly off the shelf.
But it did.
Be Aunt Jemima, but no. Oh, I get it.
I had to get shares of bidets. Bidets, the price of it just skyrocketed. So
anybody that's been to Japan knows that a bidet is the right way to go.
There you go. That's right. That's right.
Bidet, people, you won't leave it for hours.
Just live in that room.
Live in there, boy. Bring me a book, put a TV screen up in there, I'm set. Bring me my medicinals. Great.
The heated seats. Yes, I agree.
Heated floor, all that.
Yes, yeah. It's been really interesting. I've never eaten so well. I've never read so much in my life. And since there's no place to be, my stress levels have plummeted. I'm not stressed out because I don't have anything to place.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna spend this last 8 weeks being stressed? No, let that go. It seems like where people really got stressed is when our administration failed us and people's different states letting people out early, and they were stressing over the fact they couldn't get their nails done or their hair done. Okay, could a bagel, couldn't cavort together it's not about you people, it's about all of us. So you got to care about the next person. Okay, learn that. Citizens unite. Citizen brigade.
Yes. This has been so good. You've been so generous with your words and your thoughts and your ideas. I really appreciate this. I mean, you know, like I said, the community, we really needed something that, you know, could kind of uplift us, and that was not all bad news, and that was not all about, you know, the armed forces storming into our city and, you know, sickness. And so this was a nice reprieve, even though, you know, it was kind of gory, but it was a nice, you know,
Yeah,
break from all of that stuff. So
and it couldn't have happened on a better day with Nia dropping that new trailer as well.
right,
And
yeah.
I think it's got over 2 million views so far.
I mean, if you haven't seen, to the audience, if you haven't seen that, I will post a link to the Facebook page because it's gorgeous. So everybody follow Tony. You have a great social media. One is that Tony posts food because you're a big foodie, and great music, good jazz. And like I'm saying, if you still want to do that DJ thing,
Yeah.
like there's streaming sites online where you can set up a DJ set and have people
Oh, you
listen.
gotta tell me about that. Talk to me
I'm
on here about that, okay?
I'll let you know, because I would tune in to Tony Todd's DJ sets, especially because I'm at home. What else am I gonna do? I might as well tune in.
But
You know?
someday, you know, that's one thing I did do during this quarantine. I posted more music than I normally would post, you know.
Uh-huh.
I tried to like, okay, I'm not gonna post every day. But then I put on my great headphones and started listening to something. It's like, this needs to be dropped. People need to know.
Let the streets need it. Yes.
But I'm gonna dial it back. I want to do it like 3 times a week. You know, I don't. Less is more sometimes. You know, one
Okay.
night I think I put down like 22 tracks. I was so happy. You know.
But it's good. It's so good. And like, you know, it's nice because sometimes you're just inside the house for hours and hours. You're like, what else? I've listened to every single thing I've listened to. So it's good to have somebody else's perspective. So I say keep dropping them. 20 times a day, 30 times a day. I'm on it.
I
So
just want to spread a little light and love. You know,
yeah,
it's too
yeah,
fast, people. I
it's true.
promise.
Well, that's our show for the night. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I also have to go feed this kitten. She needs eating every 2 hours. She needs to eat.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go feed her.
What's her
I'm
name?
Bassett.
Bassett. Okay.
Yeah.
Like the hound. Bassett.
Yeah, yeah. My mom was like Angela, and I was like, yes, mom.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, the first, Bassett the first. So
Beautiful.
thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much to the audience. We'll be back again, so please join the Langston Hughes newsletter and our social media so that you can keep up with the events that we're doing. We have a Juneteenth event tomorrow that you're going to want to, Tony, you might be interested in this because we've got DJs going through the history of the Pacific Northwest Sound
Oh wow.
tomorrow. For
Yeah, I'm so glad that rally was moved from Juneteenth, particularly on this side of the worst race riot in America. I don't know.
And he said he didn't know. He said he didn't know anything.
Whatever. Whether he did or didn't is still atrocious. Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like Juneteenth, if you can celebrate safely, celebrate, you know, maybe social distancing, maybe get your family on FaceTime with each other. But now is the time where we need to celebrate ourselves as people, our accomplishments, our goals, our future, and the things that we have to look forward to. There's so much to celebrate because we're still here, you know, throughout everything that we've been through, we're still alive. So, and then also next month, in July, we'll be doing the Seattle Black Film Festival. So you're going to want to stay tuned to that as well. Tony, thank you.
It's been wonderful. I appreciate you. Okay. Keep up the good work and make sure you send me a message.
Definitely. I definitely will.
Now, people, be good to yourselves.
All right, everybody.